Hello, my name is Aoife Forde and I'm farming here in the heart of the Burren in County Clare. I farm alongside my parents Fiona and PJ, where we run a suckler cow herd. We've about 40 suckler cows and we run a crossbred herd of limousines. So we have a unique farming system where we farm both uplands in terms of Burren winterage, and we also farm lowlands as well. In the summertime, the cows graze the green pastures, and it gives the chance for the winterages to regrow and to rejuvenate, and I suppose to flower as well, and that's when the burn comes into bloom. So in terms of trees on our farm, I suppose we have a huge amount of native woodland, which is dominated by hazel. And I suppose we would have a lot of maybe ash trees and oak trees as well on the farm in different fields, which do provide a lot of shelter for cows. So in terms of our farm, like I said, we have a lot of native hazel woodland. A lot of that hazel woodland is in the winter ground where the cows are in the winter time. And instead of going into a shed, this woodland actually provides a great deal of shelter for those cows, and you know, it provides warmth. Then I suppose in terms of biodiversity, if you walk through these woodlands in summertime, you know, you can see the huge different range of species that's in them in terms of plants, but also in terms of insects and pollinators and things like that, that they are in abundance in these native woodlands. The new schemes are very much directed at encouraging farmers to plant trees because, again, of the benefits that they hold. A lot of the areas where there would be native hazel, you wouldn't be a million miles away from finding some archaeological monuments such as Forde or dolmens or anything like that, you know, or the portal tombs. Like they tend to be quite close to each other. I know in our winterage up in Karen that there is a lot of areas that there is a lot of stone pens that you can still see here today, and the native woodland isn't too far away because it was there for that area of shelter as well. Our winterage ground is 3 miles away from our home farm, so every year in December we walk our cows the 3 miles up the road and we let them off into the winterage then, and that's where they stay for 3-4 months of the year until they calf, and they come back down then home before calving. In those winterages there is lots of different pockets of hazel scrub, and I suppose in terms of a herding point of view, when you go up to herd the cattle and if you know the weather is bad, that's exactly where you're going to find them. You're going to go straight to the hazel woodland and that's where they're going to be. And the weather might be atrocious outside, you mightn't put, as they say, put the dog out in it, but at the same time you walk around the cows, the heat will be rising off them, and it's of huge benefit to them, and they're happy out. They don't take any notice of the weather. So I suppose if you go back 6,000 years ago, the burn was completely covered in scrub, and then the first farmers came to the burn and they started to clear away the scrub and they exposed the limestone rock, which we see and which we know as the burn today. And then that in turn allowed for the flowers to grow that bloom throughout the year. If we abandon land and if land doesn't get grazed correctly, that hazel scrub then begins to dominate and the burn as we know begins to disappear. And you know, that has negative impacts then in terms of flowers and biodiversity and actually maintaining the burn that we know. There is a program in place how to actually control that hazel scrub. If we abandon the process and if we say, look, we'll let all the hazel grow back again, like the burn will literally disappear. That's what has happened. You can see it in places that have been abandoned and that haven't been grazed. The hazel has taken over and it has dominated. So I suppose it's about maintaining that balance. There is a huge benefit to having trees on your farm in terms of what they do for the environment in terms of sequestering carbon. It's very, very beneficial. You know, as we look down the road in terms of farming, in terms of carbon credits, trees will be very, very beneficial on farms as well. And also, I suppose, if we look at in terms of the direct payments from the Department of Agriculture and from Europe, areas that were once excluded that might have been areas full of trees, that kind of area is starting to come back into those payments. So I think it's very, very beneficial for farmers going forward that they are no longer going to be penalised in having, you know, these woodland areas to a certain extent in these tree areas, that they'll actually be back included and that they will receive payments on them.